Hello, welcome to Doris Diaries, my vlog series where I build my new startup, Doris, out in the open and share some of the highs and lows, ups and downs, learnings, mistakes, breakthroughs, big steps back, and try and share those honestly for anyone who's watching on LinkedIn and YouTube. And we're at a really exciting moment in the journey. So the big kind of company news is that we've decided to fundraise. Of course, every day when you're running a business, particularly a startup like ours, you have to accept that you haven't got the full answer and you keep figuring things out. But we've seen some great things on both sides of the market in terms of engagement from parents on one side and schools on the other. And that validation is enough that we're ready to take this thing forward, take it global, which is super, super exciting. But this Doris Diaries isn't about fundraising. We're getting much more granular. This is about UX, particularly what we've learned and what we're going to do with those learnings. And so for the second part, I'm going to show you a real user session. I absolutely love watching them through Hotjar, and then talk a little bit about the UX developments that we're making. But two interesting learnings. So the first is that our mobile traffic is super, super, super high as a percentage of our overall users. It's hard to put an exact number on it because obviously we're using the platform as well, and at the minute that kind of forms a percentage of usage, but I'd say it's anywhere between 75 and 85% plus on mobile, and that's I think higher than me and Tom thought it was going to be, but that's a great learning. So we've been we were running Doris in the beta period and we're now live with some customers, and we have to learn about the parent experience so we can develop it in a way that's most impactful for those parents and makes that experience best, because our main kind of our overriding idea at Doris is that if we can provide an excellent experience for parents, and that's an experience that just doesn't exist at the minute when they're looking for an international school, if we can provide that experience for them, then that creates a lot of value for the parents, and obviously then we can pass that value on to our partner schools. The other key learning is that, I suppose it was my original hypothesis, was that we could get parents straight into the chat experience, and basically that hypothesis has proved a bit right and a bit wrong. So when the chat experience, when the Doris AI school finding assistant is engaging with the parent and that parent's engaging, when there's a great fit between those two and the parent's prepared to do it and at the right point in their research journey to engage with it, it works super, super well. It's really cool to see. I'm going to show you a session in a second. But that experience isn't right for all parents, and that's because obviously there can be a mismatch between that high intent process or user experience of engaging with the AI assistant and the readiness of that parent. Maybe they're researching 24 months out, and so obviously we don't want to discount them for the process. So what we were seeing, that when it works, it really works, but there are a lot of bounces. There are parents that are coming in, so our ads are working, we're getting a huge volume of parents through, and from right around the world as well. I think we've had, Tom might be watching this and he might need to correct me, but I think we've had 130 countries and territories plus, and that's parent users. But a lot of those parents come in and they bounce away from the experience, or they come in and kind of flip to the first version of kind of a more casual, browsy UX. So we're going to take those two learnings: one, that mobile is super important, and two, that the chat experience really works for high intent parents. But if that's the only kind of main UX we offer, that's going to miss out on a huge chunk of parents who are researching schools. So what we're going to do is basically evolve the overall experience. So the first thing that parents are greeted with is the ability to browse a little more casually with a little bit lower intent, but that the Doris AI School Finding Assistant is built in as a kind of seamless part of the experience. So for the parents that want to try it or who are ready to kind of give criteria and get recommendations, that is always there. So these were great learnings, and it's been really cool. We kind of had this original hypothesis, and we found that it works in some ways, and when it works, it really works, but that we can't be as, I suppose, didactic as that to all parent users, or we're just not going to be able to service as many as we could, and that would be a massive shame, and just obviously isn't necessary. So first, I'm going to show you one of these experiences when the chat is just really working, when the Doris AI assistant has got it. Then I'm going to show you a little bit kind of behind the scenes, how you do some thinking when you've got some UX ideas and you've got some data insights. And then I'm going to give you a preview of the new user experience that we're kind of pushing in steps, literally as I speak. Tom is in an apartment on the other side of the building where he's staying, coding away, so there's new bits emerging literally by the minute, which is super cool. Okay, so let's take a look at this user session. It's a brilliant session time, kind of like what we're on, 30 and a bit minutes. So this is chunky time on site and schools. I'd love to know what your average TOS is, or session duration is. Maybe we can compare that. Be interesting. So we're watching this at 2x speed, so it will be super quick. And just a reminder that the red lines are just tracking the mouse movements. This is a tool called Hotjar that we use in the tracks sessions. So okay, this user is from the UK. They have a little bit of a scroll, and then they engage with the Doris chat. So this is Sarag from the UK. Not too sure what age their child's gonna be. But let's see what curriculum we're looking for. Okay, so looking for an international curriculum with a French element. Interesting, nice. They want the school to teach in English, but have some kind of French offering or French language component. That sounds cool. Let's have a look. So here they are consenting to the T's and C's. Alright, so they don't know what budget they want yet, but that's fine. Doris finally checks, looking for send school, any particular strengths or any other key bits of information that you want to give me. So the answer is kind of no for this parent. It looks like their main criteria, obviously the age range of their child, they put in their budgetary criteria, they want an international curriculum, but they want some kind of French element to that as well. So let's see the first results that Doris gives. So I can see we've got GIS here, OFS, and you can see, look, the parent is actually, you can see they're kind of circling that. So what Doris has done here, he said, all right, OFS matches your school because it's got a kind of international curriculum, and my guess is actually their child is primary age. It instructs in English, but look, it's kind of missing the French element that you're looking for. So let's keep going. Again, they're looking at the kind of pros and cons. So again, Doris is flagging what does and doesn't fit about these schools based on the parents' criteria. And again, the goal is to keep making this more and more intelligent. It has got smarter since we started, but we want to make these criteria even more nuanced. And we've got some cool plans as well for how we can help parents search by the vibe they're looking for, and even what other parents say about the school, but that's to come a little bit down the road. So let's see what else happens on this session. So you can hear, I don't know if you can hear those clicks actually on the recording, but I can. I think what the parent's doing is left clicking and then opening up each of these schools in a new browser tab so they can come back to them. And I think that's interesting. We have a favorite function once you're through to the profile, but it's not here, so maybe that would help this parent. Let's see, okay, scrolling through some schools, and there we go. So this is the first one that they opened up. So this one's AWIS, the digital campus. So let's see what they do on the profile. So you can see there, they're reading the kind of feedback that Doris has given, the rationale for why this school would or wouldn't be a good fit for them. And they're really checking out the fee ranges on the school. Again, checking out the tuition fees. That's obviously key information. And then there we go. So they're through to IFS, the International French School now. So this is a school that obviously has a stronger French offering, which is one element of what this family's looking for, but also has a very international curriculum and outlook as well, through the kind of French international curriculum that they offer. But obviously there's a strong French language and French cultural component too. So there we go, having a look at the fees again, and there we go. So they're through, their search must have been for a primary age child. This is La Petite École. my GCSE French teacher, I'm sure, would tell me off for that pronunciation. But here's another school that seems to really fit this parent's criteria. And there you go, they're going back and forth comparing between this and IFS, which is interesting. So let's see what they look at, and then they go back to AWIS, and that is the end of the session. So 15 minutes time on site there. The chat experience worked really well for this parent. They were able to give Doris their criteria. They got a long list of schools. Some of those schools clearly didn't fit because Doris offered schools with a kind of international curriculum focus. So they were looking for the IB primary years program. That would be the international curriculum that fits, and instruction in English, and of course matched by age range, but schools that didn't really kind of match that French component of this parent search. And then some of those schools did match that component really quickly, and they're the schools that the parent chose to click through and take a look at. And you could see they were clicking back between IFS and Le Petit École there. So this is an example of when there's a really clear match between the parent's level of intent and their research stage, the Doris AI School Finding Assistant really helps parents get to schools that are a good fit for them. Now, of course, we want to make this far, far, far smarter. We want to make the comparison ability or the ability to compare between schools without having to click back between profiles much smoother. But yeah, it's an experience that when a parent is ready and at the right point to engage with Doris, they can go from what parents describe themselves as just overwhelmed, just not knowing where to start, bombarded with ads, names of schools and websites, through a simple qualification process through to schools that meet their criteria. Okay, so that was a great session. Shout out to that parent for using Doris. Thank you so much, wherever you are in the UK. Ironically, that session actually was on desktop, but going back to our two key learnings that I started this video with, the first is that the overwhelming majority of our sessions happen on mobile, and the second is that when there is a good fit between the stage that the parent's at and the experience that the Doris AI School Finder Assistant offers, something really cool happens. We can take a parent from, potential overwhelm all the way through to comparing schools in an informed way. The question is, when you have these kind of insights, what do you do as a startup? Well, you start by doing this. So what you do is quite literally go back to the drawing board. So this is a screen recording of the Figma Jam that Tom had with our UX and design experts. And you just take a big step back and say, okay, this is the current hypothesis and experience that we have. Here's what we've learned. Let's brainstorm and think about how we can evolve this UX to improve the experience for users and ultimately, obviously, improve the performance of Doris, and then, at the very end of that process, basically pass on more value to our partner schools. Okay, so one of the outputs of that Figma Jam was this new updated mobile UX, again leaning into those learnings that the majority of our users are on mobile, and second, that when there is a good fit between parents and the assistant, cool stuff happens, but that not all parents are ready to do that. So we've kind of taken a big step back and added almost an extra dimension to the UX that allows a parent who's maybe browsing more casually or just a little bit earlier in their research process to engage with Doris and still get those key benefits, which are finding a school that's a great fit for them and understanding why a school's a fit for them, but just in a little bit more of a casual way. So this is very much a work in progress. UX, we still need to find the best way to nest the Doris Assistant. We're not sure if that should be kind of here as a floating button or as a kind of chat bar at the top, but again, we're doing some experiments on that. So let's play and take a look at this UX. You can see it invites a parent in a much more kind of non-committal way just to scroll and take a look at schools. You can favorite one, as you see that I did there. We've then got this horizontal bar at the top with some very broad filters. You can apply those and it tells you how many schools are a good fit for you, and then you can scroll on that kind of long list. And of course, when you find one that you think, okay, yeah, this sounds about right, I'm going to take a look at it, click through to the school profile, and we've amended that main CTA, which is about connecting with the school, but now phrased as message the school, to improve the rate at which users convert through to being a lead. We've also added this map view. So this is a way that you can find a school, obviously thinking more strongly about location. And again, you can reach their profile by clicking through to their profile on Doris. So they're the big kind of UX changes that we've implemented. What we've done, we still at the core have the Doris AI school finding assistant that's built to really meaningfully help parents find their best school match. But what we've done is, again, take a bit of a step back and think, okay, how can we accommodate parents that are not yet ready to engage with the assistant, or are maybe a little bit earlier in their research journey? So this is a massive work in progress, but what I think this is going to allow us to do is provide value to so many more parent users on Doris. And again, as always, that means passing more value on to our partner schools. And that's really at the core of mine and Tom's thinking, that the way to get this thing to work is to provide the best experience for parents who are looking for an international school, to provide a platinum grade consumer experience that they get when they're making any other very, 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 very expensive and serious purchase. You know, it should be no different with schools. So that's what we're going to build at Doris, and that's ultimately how we believe that we win long term, by just creating an absolutely amazing experience for parents, wherever they're from, wherever they're looking for a school, and wherever they're up to in their research journey. Thanks for watching this Doris Diary. It's all systems go at HQ in KL. The next update I bring you probably will be about fundraising, but I hope you found it interesting to see under the hood of how a startup, particularly our startup, takes a hypothesis, looks at how that hypothesis works in the real world, takes some learnings, and then tries to translate those learnings into an improved UX for users, and ultimately use that improvement as an opportunity to create more value for customers. All right, I'm going to sign off. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next installment.